Wow. That was the first words out of my wife when we watched Remember It, the fifth episode in X-Men 97's first season. And I got to say that I agree wholeheartedly. My jaw was on the ground at the end of this episode, action packed throughout, but also emotional throughout. There was a lot of drama in this episode, bringing back Madeline, bringing back Cable. I didn't think it was going to be so quick that we were going to get all of these storylines touched upon. Like I said, we just saw them a couple episodes ago, and now they're back. Man, where are they going to take these things? Cable, I think, obviously has a bigger role to play in the rest of this. And the next episode is entitled Life Death Part 2. So we know the Storm Forge episode is going to wrap up next week. The storyline there is going to wrap up in that episode. But the following episode is called Bright Eyes. Now, we know that in this episode, Madeline, Scott, and everybody's looking at Cable's brown eyes. And I think that's kind of a giveaway that that is going to be where we're going to. And with Cable having time travel abilities, I think we're going to see from his point of view these events that we saw here. And whoa, did these events get crazy. This mutant massacre that we saw on the island of Genosha was insane. And I got to say, spoilers, if you did not see episode 5, Remember It, you got to check this out. Written by troubled show creator Bo DeMeo. We still don't know exactly why he left the show, but we know that he wrote, created, had a huge hand in all of these episodes. So hopefully we'll find out coming up exactly why he left. But he did tweet some stuff back on social media. He was gone for a little bit, but he's now back promoting his OnlyFans and some other things. But interesting stuff. He's talking about the creation of the show, his personal experiences, and what went into it. So if you want to follow Bo DeMeo on X, that's where he's posting a lot of this stuff. Interesting, to say the least. But this episode, we got to give it up to our boy Gambit. From the very start, he had the previously on, so we knew it was going to be a Gambit-centric episode. And boy, was it ever. And let me take it to our boy Shoff, my co-host with the most. Shoff is a huge Gambit fan. Unfortunately, he was not able to be with me this week as I record on the road. I'm in Texas visiting my family at the moment, but I did want to say Shoff sent me a little message to talk all about Gambit because that is his favorite character, and he is a Gambit expert, I would say. So let's get into it right now. Shoff said, he proved in that moment that he's one of the best X-Men. He's been my favorite character for almost 30 years. It's about time others realized how awesome he is. This show has done an exceptional job of proving everyone's worth. And I recall saying on prior episodes that they weren't giving Gambit much to do previously, but that he'd likely have his own episode. And he sure as blank did. I think the weight of Gambit's sacrifice deserves to stay. As much as I'd love to see him again, there's power in that loss. And stories that truly connect with people are ones with actual stakes. I've talked about the stakes a lot on prior episodes of podcasts that I've been on. Without stakes, conflict is meaningless and empty. Just like how we'd love to see Robert Downey Jr. back as Iron Man, but you can't walk back that kind of sacrifice. It would cheapen the moment. And I gotta say, Shoff, that was beautifully said, wonderfully written, but that also has been kind of the crutch of comics, coming back and rewriting things, retconning things. Death in comics has been cheapened over the years because of the fact that they want to bring back the characters that we know and love and tell stories with them over and over again. And it's kind of like that monkey's paw situation where be careful what you wish for, because we all want Spider-Man to be okay. We want Superman and Batman to always be there. But at the same time, we also want stories that have impact. We want stories that matter. And the death today isn't, we know, going to be turned around in a week and the characters brought back. Just like with Miss Marvel recently in the comics, where Marvel actually slipped up and said that she was coming back even before she died. And so when people saw the death of Miss Marvel, everyone was like, okay, this is a joke because Marvel's already revealed that she's coming back next month and it means nothing. So all of the weight, all of the impact, everything was lost in that moment because it was played up. Like this is going to be a substantial death. This is going to be something that matters. But if you're not going to do that, then what's the point? And I think Schaff is 100% correct with Gambit. It would be very cheap if they just bring him back with some time travel shenanigans, bring back all of the mutants. You know that they're going to do it. It's not like the odds are against that they won't bring them back because way too many of our main characters died in this episode for me to believe going forward that none of them are going to be brought back. So I am cynical about how many people are going to be brought back. But if we take just this episode by itself, man, was this a monumental and epic episode just because of all of the sacrifice and all of the characters that we lost and the emotional weight of how they went out. And on top of that, all the storylines were just synchronizing wonderfully. The Scott, Jean, Madeline triangle, what was going on with them, Scott losing it and having to sacrifice his son, which to me hit home as a dad and as a father, thinking about having to give up my son. That was kind of hard for me to think about. But seeing Cable come back and him apologizing, sorry, Mom, I wasn't there to save you. Like I said, I think we're going to get it from his perspective in 2 weeks on the Bright Eyes episode. But I want to see exactly what comes back and what is changed when he goes into the future. And I think not only the love triangle with Scott, Madeline, and Jean, but also Scott, Wolverine, Jean, Magneto, Gambit, Rogue. Those are all interplay that is very much like soap opera, juicy drama that we've been getting this whole series and that the X-Men have been giving us in comic form for years. And all of that stuff was great. I was loving it, eating it up with a spoon on Saturday morning. I was having a great time with all of that stuff. Shout out to Nightcrawler, one of my favorite characters from the comics and from the X-Men arcade game. Seeing him in all of his glory was fantastic. He had some great moments. But I do have to agree with Shaw. The MVP of this episode, we wanted to give it to Magneto at first, but overall, the title of the episode says it all. Remember it. Gambit is the name. Gambit is our MVP for this episode. His sacrifice, helping Rogue, saving her, and also kind of sacrificing in a different way with the Magneto storyline and being like, okay, we're just going to be friends. This is a path I can't go down. If you're going to go his way, then it's better to have loved and lost than to not have loved at all. Gambit, the poet out here, he's doing some great stuff. I loved all of the different mutants we got in the background, Emma Frost, all of the Morlocks, everything. The X-Men fan in me was having a great time looking at the background. And even the Marvel fan was having a great time when the Watcher showed up in the clouds. And I was like, something is about to happen because the Watcher only appears when there's going to be a major event. So I loved all of that stuff. The action again in this show has been fantastic, but in this episode, it was like Akira, some great anime inspired action on the motorcycle, these wild sentinels coming through, and it is crazy to see this attack on Genosha and all of these mutants getting killed, Charles Xavier's statue falling on people. All of that stuff was just hit you gut wrenching in your soul. And even Rogue's performance, the voice actress that plays Rogue, I can't feel you at the end, and cutting to black, her only being able to hold Gambit because he was dead, only be able to touch him because he was dead. She couldn't touch Nightcrawler earlier in the episode. So All of that stuff, just fantastic. This show is hitting on all cylinders. And I got to say, this was probably my favorite episode so far of X-Men 97. But they just continue to top themselves each week, raising the bar. Man, Bo DeMeo, what happened? Why did you get kicked off? Why did you leave? Because this is some grade A stuff that you were putting out. This, I think X-Men 97 might have surpassed Loki and WandaVision as my favorite show on Disney Plus relating to the Marvel franchises and the Marvel properties. I want to know, what did you think about this 5th episode of X-Men 97? Remember It. Was Gambit the MVP, or was it our boy Magneto? Who deserves the crown in this episode? And how quickly do you think they're going to turn it around with the Cable episode coming up? I want to know your thoughts. Are you as cynical as I am, or are you more optimistic and you think, no, death is really going to last? This is not like the comics. This is the animated show, and we're actually going to keep all of these deaths that we've seen. All right, let me know. I'm curious. Next week, Schaff will be back. We're going to be talking X-Men 97 more and more here on This Comic Cooks.